A long time. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. I hope you're well too.
I'm good.
Well, first let me take because I'm sure you have seen the entire work that was done by Al Jazeera, the gold mafia, the part 4 that is of interest to a lot of Ghanaians, and perhaps the mention of the name of the president and the mention of the name of Ghana in contrast subsequently. What do you think? Did Al Jazeera get it wrong?
Well, yes, indeed, I've watched it, and the issue for me is the fact that Al Jazeera did have that information. Then they contacted the president. The president had every reason to respond appropriately and in full to the Al Jazeera request. What the president chose to do was to do these verbal gymnastics. And in investigation, when you ask somebody a simple, straightforward question, and the person is unwilling to give you a simple, straightforward answer, you tend to doubt that person. So if I ask you, do you know Alistair Mateus? And he says, I'm not sure whether I know him. That does not mean that you don't know him. So therefore, you can actually conclude that it's possible that you know him, but you just don't remember. So the president had the opportunity. For me, I think what is ridiculous is the fact that rather than respond to the Al Jazeera question, first the president gave that vague answer, and second, like he does in many cases, he asked Al Jazeera to come and give him evidence of contracts that were awarded in Ghana that must have been inflated and all of that. So Al Jazeera was like, what the heck? This has nothing to do with what I ask you. I have that allegation and I've put it to you. All you can probably say is that, no, I don't know him. Yes, I know him. So therefore, Al Jazeera will now know how to present it. But if you told Al Jazeera, like he said in his statement, that he does not recall, what it actually means is that it's either the president actually knows him and doesn't remember, or the president is hiding something, or the president doesn't know him. If you put a journalist in this position, all he has to do is to present it in the best way he can. And I think that Al Jazeera made justice to that when they put the president's response to in their documentary. The issue about we told you, and therefore because I said I didn't remember, or because I said bring me more information, you were therefore bad in running the story. Listen, if I contact you that I'm running a story, and you say, okay, I'll get back to you, and I have already told you the allegation against you and you don't respond to it, that does not stop a journalist from responding. He can actually say that, well, I contacted him, he said he will respond at a later time if that story has a deadline. Or the person can wait for you. Whether you come back 20 years, he will be sitting down there waiting for you to come back to you. So especially when a journalist has sent you a report, a request that he's doing something and he wants your input, if you decide to reply to that request and not answer the question, he's at every liberty to run the story and say that I contacted him, he said he will respond at a later date. But in the case of the president, he actually gave all these vague answers, and that literally was a blank check for Al Jazeera.
So the problem...
But the fact that the president doesn't respond or says that I will respond later or bring me this and this before I will respond, does not stop Al Jazeera. Even if the president denied everything, it still does not stop Al Jazeera from running the story. How many times haven't we had people who will respond and lie about something until something really comes up and you now know that whatever they were saying was lying? So whatever you say, your right to a response has been given to you. You had the opportunity to state categorically that you've never met him. I've never met Mateus. I've never represented him. I don't know him in any capacity. The president could have said that.
So it is the president's response that's problematic to you?
No, I think a lot of things are problematic. First of all, the president's request, you have been asked to give a response to a specific allegation. Okay? What was the allegation? The allegation was that the president of Ghana, and there are a series of it, Matthias makes a series of it, that first of all, the president of Ghana is his friend. That's one. Second, that the president of Ghana was his lawyer. Okay? That's two. The third allegation is that the other statement is that there are occasions in Ghana where the government wants to give a contract, and they will give the contract to somebody who has no capacity to deliver it, but then that person will then take a percentage of that and then hold it, and he will take his share, and the politician will take their share. Those were the four specific allegations that Matthias made. And I can tell you, between you and I, this is easy. If Al Jazeera wants to check this, whether it's true or not, it's easy. And I am very confident that even if this matter came to court, Al Jazeera will come through very easily.
So you are confident that these are matters that can be easily verified, checked and verified by the television station?
You see, the president is putting himself in a very deep water. Trust me. The issue about contracts, inflation, or award of contracts to companies who don't deliver by subcontract to the actual people, even I can prove it. Okay? Even I can prove it. So I'm saying that the president is putting himself in very deep waters when he tries to challenge Al Jazeera on matters of this nature. That for me is a slippery slope for the president. The other issues for me, Matthias, did Matthias operate in Ghana? That's one of the things he said, isn't it? He runs a gold smuggling scheme where he ships out over $40 million a month, okay, out of this country. If you really know the industry in Ghana, you know that the Indians are the biggest players of buying and smuggling gold out of Ghana. Go to Kumasi, you see them there. They buy the gold from all the Chinese, from all the Ghanaians. They buy the gold. Is it true that Matthias was operating in Ghana? That's absolutely true. You remember the $9.2 million controversy between Alistair Matthias and a certain gentleman by the name Henry Osei of Gold Rest. So that story ended up in court in Dubai, and Alistair Matthias won the court case. And that particular concession that they were disputing over, which was in the name of Gold Rest, was in the eastern region, the president's home region. So I'm saying that Alistair Matthias indeed operated in Ghana. That's a fact. Therefore, if he says he was shipping gold $40 million out of Ghana, probably through that concession, that's a fact, because we do know that he and his partner Henry Osei had that gold dealership, to the extent that on one occasion, on just one shipment, there was a $9.2 million dispute between the Henry Osei and Alistair Matthias, in which case the Dubai court ruled in favor of Matthias. That is also a fact. So you can realize that Matthias's points are beginning to check out. Okay, his claims are beginning to check out, and therefore, for me, I feel like the president is really fighting a losing battle. This is not the Ghana media that you can just cow them into, scream at them, and then just issue a rejoinder. If you listen to what Al Jazeera is saying, I think they are leaning towards not apologizing or not retracting. Because if they were, I've seen the letter they've written to the, I've seen the email response that they gave to TV3, for example. And basically they are saying that the president's letter had errors. Okay? So the allegation and the threat of retraction, they are pointing out, without specifically naming it to TV3, that the president's letter was riddled with errors, which they have had cause, because the president asked them to retract that story based on the letter they wrote to Al Jazeera. If Al Jazeera says that we have had cause to correct the letter portions of the letter that you sent to us, it means that Al Jazeera is saying that the president's letter to them is riddled with errors, which they had to point to them that this is an error, this is an erroneous statement, all these things you're saying are not true, or are not correct, or are not contextual. For that reason, I am thinking, without having to see the letter from Al Jazeera, it appears that Al Jazeera is leaning towards the fact that they are standing by the story and they will not apologize or retract.
In this case, for you as a journalist, has Al Jazeera done the duty of a journalist in this whole circumstance?
Absolutely. There are two things. The first thing is that at least Al Jazeera made a fair comment, right? They made also a professional attempt to contact the president for his side of the story. That is a professional or ethical responsibility that they have discharged. Absolutely. For me, Al Jazeera has done so. If the president has any reason to still now have problems with the Al Jazeera report, the first option is that they have the right to a rejoinder. Okay, so the president could have just written to Al Jazeera and say, well, I'm exercising my right to a rejoinder because this and this and this is the reason. Even that, Al Jazeera will reserve the right whether to publish the rejoinder or not to publish the rejoinder. Okay, so for me, I think just the fact that they made the effort to contact the president, whatever the president had to say, he should have stated it in his first letter. But asking them to bring you information about, they are not informants for the president. Al Jazeera doesn't work for the government. They are not an extension of the Ghana of the Ghana government. So to ask them to bring you information, it's not their job. They have asked you a simple question. Why don't you just answer the simple question and get it over and done with? So all that long talk about if you have any information about an inflated contract or whatever, can't you forward it to us? That is not the email, the response that Al Jazeera was seeking from the president. They asked you specific questions. Have you ever, for example, taken money from overinflated contract? No. Have you ever known Mr. Matthias or dealt with him in any capacity? I have never known him. I've never dealt with him. I have no dealings with this gentleman. Period. The fact that the president chose not to address Al Jazeera's questions, but rather chose to ask them to bring them information before they will respond, that is not Al Jazeera's job to supply information to the president. So I feel that the president had his chance to clarify everything. He chose to rather give a vague answer. I've heard from some few people that, well, they asked Al Jazeera to bring more information. The allegation is specific. It's spelled out in a questionnaire to the president. Why doesn't he answer the question? If the president is so sure that in his whole government there's never been a single contract that has been given to someone who has subcontracted it, or contracts have been inflated in Ghana, he could have said, under my government, there has never been any contract that has been inflated. And I completely deny that under me, Nana Addo's government, there's even a single contract that has been inflated or handled in this manner. Period. The president chose not to do that. He rather chose to be vague in the hope that he can have a leeway. And Al Jazeera, I'm sure they have their legal team. They were, well, you had your chance. You had the chance to respond to all of this. And in actual fact, they also printed out what the president said to them at the end of the documentary. When you read it, you will see it there, that the president's response to them is captured in that documentary. So I don't see where the president's beef is, both legally and professionally. I think they have a high tax. And also the fact that, in my opinion, the president is walking on very slippery slope when he begins to argue that nothing of this nature has happened to his government, in his government. That, in my opinion, is wrong. That can be proven. There's information available. And so I'm wondering how he can get out of this mess he appears to have put himself. I think right now, the most important thing is for the president to sue Al Jazeera. Because you threaten them within 7 days. If they don't retract and apologize, you will sue them. As we speak now, there has never been any known apology or retraction from Al Jazeera. What they have rather sought to do is to tell the president that even your letter that you wrote to us is riddled with errors, which we have had cause to correct you on what you wrote to us. So technically, the president has no other choice. You threatened them. They have now defied your threat. They have responded to you and said even your letter is riddled with errors. So what is the president waiting for? I think he should go ahead and exercise his right if he so believes that there's not one single contract in his government that has been awarded under the circumstance as described by Alisa Matthias. Then he should go ahead and sue.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Mr. Raymond Archer is an investigative journalist, was